Everyone, how to Spike here. Today I'll be teaching you guys something a little different. Instead of the usual Spike Prime, I'll be starting a new series of videos talking about Arduino, and I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so the first thing we need to talk about before we start coding or doing projects is how to use this Arduino and the breadboard. So it might look very complicated right now, but I'm going to break it down for you. So over here we have this kind of rectangular shape right here, and the two things we need to worry about here are the GND and the 5V. The GND stands for ground, and the 5V stands for 5 volts. As it says right down here, these things are the power which can power this breadboard, which can be used to power your projects. Next thing we know is over here where it has these numbers from 0 to 13, it says digital and PWM. The ones that don't have a squiggly are voltages that can just be 0 or 5 volts. You can't change that, it just is. It can either on or off, it's binary. But the squiggly, you can change it. It can be like, you can have it volts in between, like you can have 2 volts or 3 volts. So be mindful when you're doing projects, if you want to change that or you just want on and off like an LED, pick either this one that has squiggly or no squiggly. But don't worry if this is confusing now. I'll break it down. I can do more of it later in other projects, and later in this video I will do a project with LED to show you guys how it works. So the final thing you worry about is this is where you plug the charging cable in. So you just plug that in here. So this is what it looks like. You can just like plug it in, and then light will come on. Now that we have a better understanding on how to use Arduino, we want to figure out how to use a breadboard and what this thing even is. So the main thing we need to know is this is two kind of rails right here that are connected. So this plus sign, which is red, this is where you connect the 5 volts. You see on your Arduino, you have 5 volts right there. And you can put a wire in connecting from there into this red, into this hole or any of these other holes, which is then light up this whole rail. And you can use that for your any project. So even though you only have one wire connected there, you can still connect any other thing to here and still be powered. The same goes for ground, which is the black negative sign. If you have ground right there, you can have a wire connecting from there all the way to here. It would make light up this whole track. And this, even though my breadboard, this is black, most of them are blue, so it really doesn't matter, but all we need to know is it lights up this whole rail. So now another thing that's important is that if you, let's say you put something here like an LED or a resistor, this whole thing is lit up. Like let's say you have a gap, like you have a wire here, an LED here, it doesn't matter if there's a gap here, it will still travel through this. So you see these like columns are connected. The one thing that isn't connected is like these are kind of like two separate breadboards. You have this like gap down the middle, which is like, you can think about it like a canal which separates two pieces of bodies of land. So these are not connected, and you can't connect them unless you have a bridge, which then you can connect both these sides. But you can also think of like two breadboards. You have like just do something here or here. Okay, so now that we have a better understanding on the Arduino and the breadboard, let's start constructing our first project, which will be turning on this green LED. For this project, you're going to need an Arduino, breadboard, a 220 ohm resistor, an LED, and 2 jumper wires. So a resistor, I'm going to talk about the resistor. So pretty much this, as the name suggests, resists the amount of power that an LED would get, or anything you're hooking up would get. The reason why we do this is because LEDs are very, very greedy, and they will take all the power and will burn out and die, and then you just lost like a couple cents. So let's not do that. Probably less than that, I don't know. Either way, let's not do that, and let's use a resistor, 220 ohms. And we need 2 jumper wires, and yes, these are what you use to jump your car, not these, because they're like super small, but bigger ones. So let's start constructing this project. So first, I'm going to take a jumper wire. I'm going to hook it into the ground pin. So hook it in there. Now I'm going to hook it into this negative rail on the breadboard. So now that this is hooked up, this power from Arduino, this ground goes through here and lights up this whole ground track, this black track. It can also be blue, but just my breadboard is black. So now what you need is a second jumper wire, and you want to connect this this wire to any digital pin you want, but let's use 8, one that's not the squiggly. And we will connect it into just here, this 11 right here. It's fine, doesn't really matter, but just put it somewhere. Let's connect it to 8. So after that, let's take this 220 ohm resistor. Let's put it, so this 8 is transferring power through here. And since we want to limit the power, let's put the resistor in front of it and just put it into the 17 slot, which really doesn't matter, but just put it somewhere. And as you can see, we have resist right there. Now, as I said before, the LED, the shorter side, wants to go to ground. So let's take the shorter side. Let's hook it up into ground. This might be a little hard to do, but... And, oh yeah, and hook up to ground, and we can put this longer side, the anode, connecting to the resistor. As you can see, my LED lit up. Yours probably didn't, because... well, it didn't, but mine has code saved to the Arduino. So that's the reason why it's lit up, but I'll show how to code it right now. Okay, so now that we have the Arduino, the mechanical part set up, the physical part, let's do the, let's code it. So as we see here, once you open the Arduino program, we have 2 functions, which is the void setup and void loop. So I'll break these down real quick. So the void setup is where you want to set up your code. So anything you like declare, you want to put there. And also if you're like declaring variables, you want to do it above the void setup. But for like pin mode, which I'll explain later, will go in the setup. For loop, this function, as name says, it just loops whatever code you have inside of it. So let's say I have like, I say like print high or something like that. It will just keep looping print. It just keeps saying high, high, high over and over again until I tell it to stop or do something. So now that we have the Arduino plugged in, let's code it. So what we want to do is first go above the void setup and declare like a variable above it. So, and this is called a global variable. For every single function you can use it. Let's int, and we can just follow me while I type this. Right now, you really don't have to worry exactly totally what this means, but I'll just explain it anyway. So let's call it variable LED equals 8. We set it, and the reason why we did 8 is because I set the I plugged the LED into pin 8. So that's the reason why. So if you plug it into like 9, 10, 11, then just put 9. You plug in 9, 10, plug in 10, 11, you plug in 11, and so on. So now that we have that declared, you want to go in the void setup, and we want to do, as I said earlier, the pin mode. And as you see, the pin mode function takes in a unit where the pin is put and an output. So what you want to say is you want to put LED, which is we declared as 8, and then you want to put high, or not high, sorry, you want to put LED output because it's an output. LED is, you see, since it emits light, we're going to call it an output. Something that would be like an input would be like a keypad if you have to type like a number in. So if you go on your like mobile phone, iPad, tablet, anything like that, and you have to put the code, that'd be like an input because you need to input a code. Or like if you imagine like a doorbell, if you're pressing a doorbell like the button, that'd be input, the output is the noise it makes. So now in the loop, we want to do digital write LED high. And this will turn on the LED. And this is a write function, just it takes an LED as parameter, which is what we declared up here, 8, and we put it high because we want the LED to turn on. If you want the LED to turn off, we can simply replace this high with a low. But since we want to turn on, let's put high. Now if we run it, and if we wait, you see there's no errors, so that means it worked. And as earlier, if you look at your Arduino right now, still plugged in, it should have turned green. And yeah, so after you hit run, you should see this LED light up if there's no errors. If you do find error, it will have red under it, and it will show you exactly what line you have an error. And maybe it's because you forgot apostrophe, or not apostrophe, semicolon, because that happened to me, especially when I learned Python and came back to Arduino or Java. It really messed me up. Okay, that's besides the point, but as you see, our LED lit up, and that's pretty cool. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.